So we'll just start with some gentle breathing. Try and get the eyes doing the same thing. But the hands open and the eyes diverge and look to infinity. And then as the hands come in, the eyes are also coming in to converge and look down into the dantian. Hands gripping each other behind the back, shoulder blades back. And turning the head. And then just rubbing the hands. And then hands on the knees. Feel the heat transfer. And then just rubbing the knees. And just rubbing the hands again. And then the hands over the down chin. A little bit of pressure pushing in slightly. And then let the head sway mindfully, so really feel it. Bring the hands out a little bit. And now the clenching into the belly, so the sphincters. So pulling in, tightening, hands are clenching, eyes are screwing shut, mouth is puckering. So all the ring muscles are tightening, and then they all release and push out. Pulling in, pushing out. Try and get the feet to do the same thing that the hands are doing. So the feeling that you're trying to make a fist with your feet. And then rubbing the hands again. And then the hands over the sacroiliacs or on the kidneys, depending on how you feel it. Again, just wait, just feel the heat transfer for a moment. And then making circle. Making the circle with the head, spine, inclining. And changing direction. Back up. And then slowly drag the hands down the legs to the knees. And then down inside to the dantian. And the hands just come over the dantian again. And now circling the head. Then the other way. And then rubbing the hands again. And then placing the hands over the thymus, quite high up on the sternum. And then just turning the head side to side and feel it pulling from that region your hands are over. Then the hands into prayer again. And now hands up and down, really pulling the head back as you push the hands up. And then the hands down, chin coming in, pushing into the chest, looking down on top of the fingers, and up again. The hands out. And now just imagine you're gripping two cables and then pulling the shoulder blades together, pulling the hands in, and then open the hands, and as though you're pushing two walls out. So I'm pulling the shoulder blades together and then expanding the back to push my hands apart. Then bring the hands into the front, arms still straight, and then fold the hands into prayer. So reaching forwards, really letting the spine bow, eyes looking down, and then pulling the elbows right back and looking up. Good. And then just rubbing the hands again. And then the hands over the eyes. So let the head sway a little bit. Feel the danchan at the base, with the still point of the turning world. So everything you do refers to that point. bring the hands and just touch them together. And now blinking, so screw the eyes up strong and then open them strong. Close, open, close, open, close, open, close, open, and then some quick blinks. And then sending the hands up with the two fingers first and ring finger and middle finger extended. Send them up, then out to the side. And now keeping the head still, just pull the eyes and look down at the fingers of the left hand, and back to the front, and then looking at the fingers of the right hand. Feel the energy. The energy will tend to follow the eyes, so something will flow down the arm into the fingers you're looking towards. And then the hands up again, down into prayer. And now circle the eyes, like how we circled the head, but the head stays still and you're circling the eyes, trying to look around as big a circle in the room as possible, whilst trying to keep the head pretty still. And change direction. And then the hands above the head again, pointing the fingers, and out. Now keeping the eyes ahead, snake the hands, and just be aware of the movement in your peripheral vision. And both hands out, up, down, and just down to meditation. And now the eyes, so the eyes not looking at anything. The eyes swivel inwards. Almost this feeling that your eyes are twisted. They've come in and they're looking down into the Danchen. Just feel if you can let that happen, then you get this sense of expansion here, very similar to like arms in ward off. So you get the feeling of it opening up here by virtue of the fact that the hands are coming in and the elbows are staying out. It's the same with the eyes. So a sense of something coming round and then in and down. Okay, and now let's try just a bit of the butterfly. So really trying to get the same sort of thing in the legs. Sitting cross-legged will do anyway. But here I'm just trying to get more openness in the groin, but with my feet pulling in. So this is ward off. Ward off is the front receiving and the back giving or emanating. Keep to a yielding mind. The vast majority of the time, we have yielding mind. Listening. You just feel these points in the groin that need to open. Okay, and now let's just finish these with lying on the back and just cycling. Again, just aiming for this openness in the groin. Okay, and then up. Into the sumo squat. And then trying to come up. Start with a bit of the reaching with the hand. Feeling the shoulder blade reaching down the arm, so the middle of the back is really stretching across. As I reach with my left hand, I'm coming into my right leg. Turning to the side to reach, and then turning back to the front to pull in. So this is yielding. I extend an issue from my back, which requires me to turn away, and then I pull into my front, which requires me to turn towards. And then just keep it going, but bring the attention more to the legs. So feel the leg that's becoming full, almost compacting, and the leg that's becoming empty, beginning to open up. Clearly distinguish full and empty. So as this arm reaches and the shoulder blade comes away from the spine to go down the arm, same thing here. This hip bone is releasing from the sacrum and feeling as though it's beginning to reach down the leg. And just move slow enough so that you can really feel the filling leg and the emptying leg doing opposite things. The filling leg is beginning to hold on, and the emptying leg is really letting go. And then just, just the legs now, using the arm just to help the leg extend. So moving from side to side. Feel the leg emptying, in other words, straightening, and then feel it beginning to bend. So beginning to fill. And then bringing it into riding horse. So coming back to gravity, the sinking. Feeling gravity as a flow of energy down through my body rather than simply a force that's pulling my body onto the ground. So to get that flow, the channel has to be clear. And the main blockage is here, where the sacrum splits into the two hips and legs. So let's try just tracing that circuit. So like the heart qigong, reaching out and then bringing gravity in down the spine and then just relaxing to get it to separate down the legs into the ground and then up again. And then back into riding horse. And again, with the gravity, the flow downwards through the body. And then I just want to relax the legs so that I can feel my own strength, which is holding me up, not being a hardness, which is locking me here, but as a flow up through the body. So the legs, it's like almost like a continuous pumping that's going on in the legs. And of course, that only establishes if I can keep my mind on the job. Remember, energy is the flow of intent. If I want to visualize energy, I have to be able to keep my mind with it. Otherwise, everything will just lock and become forceful. So there's a flow upwards that balances the flow downwards. And now let's just try the figure of 8 around the hips. So feeling the energy as something that issues from the back and then comes back round into the front center. So the figure of 8. So this is yielding, just doing one arm or one leg at a time to help us feel it. And just back to riding horse. Again, just establishing the down of the gravity and the upward of your strength. That, you know, because we tend to associate strength with like a tightening, a locking, you know, the muscle becoming tense in order to do work. So here I'm trying to let it become energetic, so which requires me to relax that. And then it feels almost like energy's flowing up the ground, from the ground up the inside of the legs. It's just a different way of feeling it. Feel the soles of the feet. You know, so something there has to just let go so that they can really be in contact with the ground. Because now it's an interface for the flow of energy rather than simply me settling onto a hard surface. So it all requires relaxation across here. The same way that the arms, you know, ward off. We're so used to ward off stretching from the back. It's the same here. The trouble is that when I use my legs with strength, this area tends to tighten up. So to get it to work energetically rather than forcefully, I have to just release across the sacrum endlessly. And then this area begins to soften, and then you really do have to be careful because it becomes a little bit vulnerable. To feel gravity extending your outside edges. They're cutting down into the ground. And it's that that's enabling the flow up the inside. A give and take, giving down the outside edge, receiving up the inside. Same with the arms, same with the eyes. The eyes look behind the object, they don't look at the object, and then the object will come in. So compassion, that's the compassionate act really, is embrace. It's you just hugging, sending your limbs out to get behind the thing that you're regarding and coaxing it in, consuming it. And now let's try just leaning against the wall. So the same thing really, just to feel it in the arms. Sort of arms length away from the wall, and then just lean on it, not too much weight. Again, feeling the legs flowing down. Gravity is melting me into the ground. The ground is coming up the inside. I want the same thing with the arms. I put a little bit of weight forwards and I can feel the arms swelling from the back in order to support me. And then my palms and the inside of the arms are sort of drawing energy from the wall and into my heart. And then I can take it down to the dantian. And just feel it. The better you can visualize your energy coming out and really penetrating the wall, the better the wall will actually penetrate you. So if I want to get my energy into something, I have to allow that thing into me. To feel the point between the shoulder blades on the spine beginning to ache a little bit with the effort of swelling from there all the time. It's the same with the sacrum. And to feel the sacrum as being a bone that's sort of swelling all the time. It's trying to expand to counter the compression that it receives from my legs all the time. And then back up, back into riding a horse. Again, just feel the gravity. It's often that just requires you to just slightly lean back a little, so to get the sacrum to rock forwards a little bit. And then you're sort of in that vertical field. And now the same action with the legs, one emptying, one filling, but using it to turn. So think of the dantian sort of staying in position in the middle. And now I'm just using the legs to turn around it. And then the important thing here is not to let the eyes fix on anything. If you do, then energetically, your turn has no power. It doesn't really affect the other person other than physically. I'm turning. And I want to feel the alternating filling and emptying of the legs. It's all coming from that. So this leg is straightening and then it's bending. Feel the centrifugal, centripetal, a sense of something being thrown away from the center, and then a real sense of something tightening into the center. You feel that especially as you reach the end of the turn. So the arms fly away, and then as I continue the turn, they come in and wrap around me. Let the eyes swivel inwards and gaze down into the down chair. Letting the arms come in and strike, especially the hand behind that's striking them in there. Stay with the legs if you can. Yeah, we just want to feel the real change effectively we're trying to institute in the legs. So if I'm just standing, then basically my legs are just pushing away from the ground in order to hold me up. And that is a certain mindset. Now, if I'm instead using my legs to try and pull myself down, then it's a different mindset. It's like I'm pulling myself down because I'm really interested in what's down there. So when I'm using the legs in Tai Chi, I want that to dominate the sense of pushing away. So the legs are working, but they're working as much to pull me down towards the ground as they are to push me away from it. So again, a balance. So I'm pulling down, I'm pulling down. So it's as the straight starts bending, that's the important point, really. I want to feel that really sucking me down into the ground. And then let the front hand come up and just tap the shoulder. The bottom hand stays striking the danchen. Top hand up to the shoulder. The back hand is making a fist to strike the Ming Men. The upper hand is opening to touch the opposite shoulder. And then back into riding horse. So there's this feeling here, it's the openness here. So remember, John used to really emphasize the openness in the inside of the shoulder for ward off. So he'd come round and, a lot of people would just, they'd be tense. So there'd be a strip of muscle underneath the collarbone that was tight, and he would just push into it and really pull your arm almost out of its socket in order to relax that muscle. Ideally, it's the same with the legs. It's really pulling from here so that this tendon here, which is the limiting factor to actually spreading the legs, feels as though it's relaxing and softening a little. And of course, that's difficult because we're also having to use the legs to hold ourselves up. And then to try and feel in the head, which is the equivalent of these points for the eyes, or for this energy coming from the back of the head and coming around. So something inside, so behind the eyes, has to really soften and become concave so that the energy from the peripheral vision can come round and really get involved. So, they talk about, imagine that the eyes are in the back of the head. So you're going behind the eye in order to see rather than seeing with the eye. So that's just a softening and a sinking inward. And then let's just try going backwards and forwards a little bit. It's exactly the same thing, really, just straightening the leg and then bending it. But now really feeling the bending as actually scooping at the ground rather than simply contracting the leg in order to pull me. Ward off with the leg. I'm really scooping underneath that bit of ground. Circling out from the sacrum and around the foot, down to the foot and around the foot. Yes, all these exercises, we're trying to, in a sense, change the way we do them. So, do them a bit better. So we get instructions physically. But really what we're looking for all the time is, what sort of mind would require me to do it like that? Really, it's just a really interested, curious mind that is also very respectful and delicate. So I'm reaching out in order to get underneath this piece of ground because I'm really interested in what's down there. So it's not just a physical thing. I'm really allowing myself to change the way I feel and change my spirit, make my spirit more lively, lighter, more interested. And then the other foot forwards. But when you're working with energy, how you feel, what you feel, the fact that you do feel is all important. Because it's that that will affect the other person. It's not the technique. It's not what you're doing with your body. Just think of the octopus. When it extends its tentacle, it does so because it's really interested in what it's going to reach, but also it's a little bit full of trepidation because it's not quite sure if what it touches is going to hurt it or not. So the tentacle is going out and it's just ready to retract at any moment. And it's that that gives it that sort of spirited delicacy, a lightness. For me, the octopus, it's always, the model, the best image, because it's just all feeling, it's all energy, it's got no hardness, it's got no bones. It's just all sensuality. Okay, and then just back to riding horse again. It's this feeling here of the sacrum spreading across. So the sinking pushes my hips apart. That gets me into the outside edge, it softens here, and then the energy can come up the inside. Okay, now let's try a little bit of this one. So all the joints in the lower body, the legs, the sacroiliacs, the bottom two vertebrae, loosening. Each of us is like a collection. Rather than thinking of yourself as like a collection of bones, it's more like a collection of joints, a collection of connections. Just feel all of the joints, forget the bones. So you become sort of all joint, all articulation. So relationship, the bones either side of the joint are doing slightly different things. And so there's stress put on that joint, but also a hell of a lot of energy flowing across it both directions. So just feeling it, especially here and here. It's the hip region that's most problematic, really. So the hips for this stanchion, the shoulders for the heart, and the jaw for the eyes and the occiput. So when I do something with my students that's sort of light, and when we're interacting, like with the Dalu, for example, I'm trying to just get them to have a really light, delicate touch that I can barely feel. Two things happen. Their eyes widen with wonder and awe, because they just know naturally that that will just bring the spirit up, that light spirit. And also they start really moving their jaw, because that loosens this part of the body, which helps the eyes express the spirit. And then just let it become the really lazy jog. And just feel the figure of eight. That's the foundation, the base of everything that we do. Endlessly single-weighted, endlessly splitting the two sides of the body into opposite movements. And now just allow that to just become the rolling the shoulder. So I'm sinking into the opposite leg. And the other way. Let's just lift the foot. Just let the foot rest on the inside of the knee. And then you can just allow this to relax again once the leg is no longer having to be held up with its own strength. So the foot goes out, toes first, touching the ground really delicately with the toes, and then bending the leg to pull yourself into it, circling around the foot as you do so. Just letting that circle be really big in your mind, and then you'll just have more stability. And then once we reach the position, just try and relax across here. So you're not being held up by your own anxiety and tension. You've just got this balance, this equilibrium, and you're relaxing, relaxing, relaxing into it all the time. Spreading across the sacrum. And now stepping. The important thing we know with the stepping is the single weightedness, not falling into the foot. Now, there's this little exercise I do with my students. So we just stand in front of each other, one to one. And then I say to them, okay, now just reach out and just touch me ever so lightly on the arm. They're not quite sure what they're doing, but I let them do it. They reach out and they just touch. So what do? They touch with their fingertips. They don't put the palm on me because they know it's going to be a bit too rough. Light is the most delicate of touches. As they do it, they reach out and there's a slight turn. So a sense that it's their fingertips that are extending forwards, or if you like, the back of their fingers. And as they touch me, the inside of their hand, their actual fingertips are so soft, they're actually receiving. So you've got this in and out feeling. Yeah, so they reach out and touch, and it's really light, and they just do it really well. But what's interesting is that if we try it again the next lesson, they never do it as well, because it's like there's this, oh yeah, I know, we did this last time. So now what they're doing, instead of really listening and trying something for the first time, so with that excitement and a little bit of fear, they are now conforming to an image of what they did last time, and it ruins it. This is really interesting. It's the problem of human beings. When we repeat something, it's lost a little bit of its magic. So that's what we're trying to get over with practice, because if that happens when you're practicing, then basically you're getting worse and worse as you practice. So now just stepping, so lifting the foot. So we do that exercise as a prelude to the stepping, and then I say, okay, now just reach out with that foot so light, the toes just touch the ground, and then you make a decision. Okay, it's safe. Now I'm going to pull myself into the leg. And then you can just relax into the leg and let the other one come up. So I extend the leg, touch with the tips of the toes, and then I draw myself into it. Yeah, so when they're doing that exercise of just reaching out with their arm, I say to them, are you conscious of the weight of your arm? And of course they're not, because the mind in its intensity and excitement can just make the arm weightless. It doesn't weigh anything. It just comes up, it floats up. And we want the same feeling in the leg. So my leg can just reach out. It's got no weight in it. And then it very lightly just draws me into it. And then it fills up. So it's filled up with my weight, but it's still that light, empty leg. Often, John would sort of get us to do something and it would be sort of different than something we'd done before. And someone would generally say, oh, it's similar to such and such. Oh, you mean that? And he'd just really get annoyed and say, no, it doesn't mean that. It means what we're doing now. Don't compare it to anything else. As though, working as though it's for the first time. And it is. You want to just abandon what you know, what you've done before, and just let it come alive now. So spontaneity. So improvising musicians, jazz musicians, they just know about this so well. They have to somehow just gently manipulate the situation so that they don't fall into their old licks and just start repeating themselves. Charlie Parker was the best. It's that every time he soloed, it was different than the time before. Well, of course, that's a great strain. This is why they have to take the alcohol and the drugs. I reach out. I want to feel like this leg is just completely weightless. Like the octopus's tentacle, because it's in water, it's effectively weightless. So just imagine you're in water. So this leg, as it goes out, it just doesn't weigh anything. And then just back into and then just bring it up.